Hi, and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and with me this week, back once again, the one and only Assistant Chief of Operations, Chief John Feddema.
Oh, it's great to be back.
Chief, I have a question for you, and this is completely random, but, we had a snowstorm earlier this week, and this is the first time I've had my truck in the snow, and especially that kind of snow, with LED headlights. And what I noticed was that everything in front of me kept going dark, and I have to stop, get out of the truck, wipe the headlights off. You have one of the new Tahoe staff vehicles that has the LED lights. Did you notice that with yours?
I did not.
Or were you paying any attention to it?
I mean, I drove it last night actually in the snow, and I was able to see where I was going. So
I was just checking because I was trying to follow people to stay, in a lane that I thought was a lane, going down Glassford Hill Road, and I ended up turning into Granville because at that point I was stuck.
Nice.
I couldn't see the median. So,
well, did you abandon your vehicle like so many other people did, just on the side of the road?
No, not at all.
We were in a meeting this morning with PRCC, and John Brambilla of Prescott said that somebody on Prescott Lakes just kind of parked their vehicle, left a note that they'd be back today at noon.
Oh, nice.
I don't think their car was there when they went back at noon because they left in the middle of Prescott Lakes.
In the middle of the road?
Yes.
Well, that's always
Got stuck.
Brilliant.
Genius.
Yes.
So I've noticed that folks in Arizona, when it snows, aren't good at it.
Well, yeah. It's Arizona, so no one expects to see snow.
When I pulled out onto Coyote Springs today, another truck pulled out behind me, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and I'm like, how can you see? They literally had, their windshield was still covered, and they had, if you're watching us on YouTube, this much of their windshield cleared off.
Yeah, there you go. They expected it to melt.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
No, and it didn't, not all the way down. So you're actually back from facilitating at Mighty Oaks last week.
Yep.
Share with us, how was that?
It was good. It's always interesting. There was 22 men, because they don't let me teach the women's program, which is probably wise.
Right, I understand.
So there was 22 men at the program, and from all over the country. A lot of PD officers, deputies, and there was a few fire personnel in there as well, firefighters from, one was from the Texas area. But it was good because it's interesting to see just the transformation throughout that week.
Right.
And some of that transformation just comes from sharing burdens,
Sure.
Being able to be in a group setting where you can unload, things that you maybe haven't shared with anybody else.
Right.
Some things that you carry. A big, component to it is, they talk about that rucksack.
Right.
And Kevin
Absolutely.
Schroeder, when he was here, he taught that program, talks about just what you carry around. Some of it's from childhood.
Absolutely.
And it's always interesting because a lot of guys want to come in there and they want to talk about PTSD. They want to talk about, calls that they've run, which is very important.
Sure.
But a lot of times what you see that transitions towards the end of the week is discussions from challenges just from childhood, personal life, and it's a safe environment to kind of navigate through some of that stuff.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's classes taught on forgiveness, brotherhood, PTSD, because that is absolutely a component to it. And it's just fun to see the transformation of those men throughout the week. Also often, like Monday, when everybody shows up, it's quiet.
Sure.
No one's talking. No one's doing a whole lot. And it's fun to see the transformation by the end of the week, just because of that connection, because of the communication.
Right.
There's the communication at the end of the week is awesome to see.
Yeah.
Just the joy and the comfort. Some of it's just that burden being released.
Sure.
You see it on people's faces. And so it's fun. It's fun just to be there and help facilitate that. It's fun to walk through the process. And, there are challenging topics related to suicide. And, they show a video during the process where it's from a wife's perspective of a husband who took his life. And so she was not there. They videotape it, and they shared that videotape. But it's a very impactful part of it because she gets to share from her side, the damage that causes. And obviously the program was designed to help reduce veteran suicide, but it is expanded to include first responders because they realized just the need that's there.
Yeah. Well, and to your point on that topic, I'd like to thank Captain Brody Fields, because after we had an incident on January 8th, and then subsequent to that, I sent out an email to the department, partners, retirees, because folks are looking for some sort of light switch to fix things, and it doesn't exist. Nope. And I thought Brody's response to that out to the agency from a brother's perspective of suicide as well was powerful for me to read, and I appreciate him taking that opportunity to share with everyone here. So the other thing, though, is, and I think this is important to point out, that after you got involved in the Mighty Oaks program, you started a program here in the community on Fridays. And they don't have to be people that go to the Mighty Oaks. They can be, just whoever. But a lot of times people go to a 1-week program, they come back and they feel good, and then they get back home, and now it's the daily life, the daily routine again, and there's not that support after a week to maintain, and they can slip back in. That's why I like the program that you started here, because folks that go to the Mighty Oaks have a place when they come back from this community to go every Friday morning and just have a fellowship with other people.
Yeah, no, and like I said, the Mighty Oaks has done a very good job, I think, trying to make connections when they return. Because like I say, it's a 1-week program, and I don't care if it's 1 week or 1 month. No matter what happens, you still go back into the same challenges.
Right.
Whether it's the job, whether it's a marriage, doesn't matter. Right. You're going back to those same issues. And like you say, you can have this little mountaintop experience.
Sure.
And I think of the program in California, because it is kind of on a little hilltop.
Right. Perfect.
When you leave, you're going back into the same challenges. So they try to give, guys tools, when they go back on how to navigate some of those challenges. The other thing that they do is they stay in communication with them over the next 6 months.
Right.
But some of that requires them to communicate in return. And so sometimes when guys go back, they realize, like, well, life still sucks.
Yeah.
And the challenges that they left still exist. And I know just, talking with the group, I don't solve problems, in the group. Sometimes they're talking about problems. My job is to help them take off the mask.
Yes.
We often bring a mask to work, sometimes protect ourselves. And my job is to help unravel that. So they might throw a little bit out there. My job is to pull the thread and help them unravel the rest of it. There are issues, though, and what the Mighty Oaks does also is help them in return connect with a counselor.
Yes.
And they have a lot of other resources. It's a faith-based program, so they'll help them get involved with a church if that's what they're looking for. But they try to align them with a counselor, so when they're going back, they are getting with a professional to help them unravel some of their challenges. Because sometimes the only request that we make in the program is don't share anything that makes us subpoenable. Right. Do everything short of that. And people
nothing criminal.
Yes, nothing criminal. And that's part of the rules and promises, which is like the first class that is given. But the goal is for it to be a safe environment, and oftentimes you can tell who keeps that mask on.
Right.
Versus somebody who truly takes it off and shares the burdens on their heart, and hopefully can go back with some of those resources, whether it's the tools they're given during the program or the connection to a counselor, or like you say, it's called the Outpost. It's through the Mighty Oaks. You don't have to have gone through the program. You do need to be a first responder or a veteran to attend. But it's just a way to stay connected. Yeah. Because one of the big components that they encourage is, they call them cornermen. Somebody that's fighting with you. Because the big slogan for the Mighty Oaks is never fight alone. Right. But one of the other components to it is be in communication with cornermen, men in your life that can help, or women if it's the women's program, because they have women's program. But be in communication with them. Right. Because the isolation, is oftentimes one of the biggest dangers, whether it's suicide or mental health issues.
I like the analogy of the thread and unraveling, because it goes back to what you talked about, where at the beginning of the week, the focus is PTSD, right? Yes. Or PTS. Yep. And by the end of the week, it's unraveled, and you're seeing all of the things underneath that weren't seen or admitted before. And I think that's important. I had the opportunity this week, Wednesday, to speak with the recruits in the morning. Basically, they were stuck and had to, listen to me. But I talked to them a little bit about behavioral and mental health, two different things. And one of the things I shared with them was when we talk to our counseling service here, Dr. Ritterbusch, and when I talk to the Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance, there are really three things that typically cause someone in our profession, a firefighter, to have mental and behavioral issues. And they are family issues, financial issues, and alcohol.
Sure.
Right? And now the question at that point is, are we looking at those? Was it's kind of a chicken and egg thing when we look at this. Was it the job that caused the problem,
mm-hmm.
or was it poor decisions that caused the problem and decreased the resiliency at work? And we don't know which. That's for a counselor to find out. But the reason I bring that up is we have a significant focus right now on the job causes everything. And the difficult side of that is, if you don't pull that thread and unravel it, then you're not going to get to the root cause. And if it is the job, great.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not, and you're not ready or willing to admit the other challenges that you create in your life, or that someone in your life creates for you, then you're never going to be healthy. And so I think we have to talk about that balance and digging down to that root cause, and that requires pulling that thread.
Yeah. No, and I think obviously there are times, we're exposed to things in the fire service that really I don't think you're meant to be exposed to, from death, from the watching families go through loss and everything. Right. And I think, some of it just plain sucks, to go. But the job becomes harder when there's other compounding factors, I believe,
absolutely,
that go along into it. And like I say, that some of that stuff is just, maybe something from childhood, something, that you're dealing with at home. Work is harder when our homes are out of order.
Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes that's hard to get back into order. Sometimes we don't have control over all that. Hopefully my wife doesn't listen to us. Sometimes marriage is hard. Sometimes raising kids is hard.
I'm going to agree with that.
But, that's where, like you say, maybe it's not all pointing to the job, but there's definitely times when the job just makes life more difficult, when sometimes this job, having the family dynamic, is a stability factor for some folks. And when that, that becomes unstable, all of a sudden now both sides of their life, work and personal, become unstabilized. And you see that spiral. I remember when I was a kid, and I didn't quite understand it when my mom said it, but she told me, like, don't be down on yourself for being discouraged or being depressed about something.
Right.
And when I was younger, I was kind of like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, don't be depressed about being depressed. And essentially that's what she was saying.
Sure.
But there are definitely times, even calls, I remember getting down where it's just like you're in this like funk, and it's understanding like, no, you can work through that.
Right.
Don't get down on yourself. Like, why am I thinking about this call? Why am I? Why can't I forget this? And it's like, no. Don't just dwell on that.
Right.
Like, you may have to be in there for a moment, but time can even heal some of that as well.
Oh, absolutely. And when I talk to the recruits, I talk to them about getting down. You have a 25-year career, and there's going to be times in your career that you are not as motivated, or you're angry about something, whatever it is. But it comes down to choice in those instances, to dig yourself back out of that hole, or to pick up the shovel and keep digging it deeper.
Sure.
Which way do you want to go with it? But then when I talk to them about those three items that I mentioned a minute ago, with family, alcohol, and the other one that we said.
Correct.
Yes.
Finances.
That one.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, listen, the best thing you can do for yourself is don't make dumb decisions.
Easier said than done, but yes.
It is. But, one of the things I pointed out is I said, go by any fire department, any fire station. And when you drive by, just look at the parking lot sometimes.
Sure.
And I mean, I'm the fire chief. I'm still driving a 2005 Duramax, right? Everybody's life is different.
Yeah.
I love my truck. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that there are choices that we make in life, and we have to be accountable and responsible for those choices. On the other hand, some people cope with stress by spending because it gives them that high in the moment, and then they get themselves in trouble. And that's where work drives this.
Well, and I think even Chief Tharp was talking the other day. We were discussing, just some of the same challenges, just in a conversation. And, he said even through some of the discussions he's had, some of it's, finding those positive outlets, and we can find some very negative outlets, including, like I say, impulse buying or alcohol,
sure,
that are just bad habits that don't lead to a better result. And we wonder why we're in the holes that we're in. But again, go back to, never fight alone, and having, other men in your life that can help point out some of those. No different than a wingman or whatever you want to call it, but somebody that you can truly trust to help maybe see the blind spots that you don't see. Right. And we do that a lot in work, right? We talk about it a lot in work. What we don't do is talk about that personally and the value that comes personally with having good, men in your life or women in your life.
Yeah, whichever it is.
Yes, whichever it is.
So we talk a lot about mental and behavioral health here and some of the things that we offer, but especially with what we've seen in the last 3 months specifically, and really it's been going on for a while. And when you think about it, when you start shining a light looking for something, you're going to find it. And what we were doing was trying to daylight mental and behavioral health issues in our organization so we could get people help. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, we see a lot of it because we were looking for it. And that's why we have the retainer agreement. But I think you asked, I asked, we went to Dr. Ritterbusch and said, what else? What are we missing within our organization? And she paid us a very nice compliment saying, I think you're ahead of most. But that doesn't mean, as I found out, that there isn't more that we can do.
Sure.
And that's a conversation that we're having now. And it's a conversation that I had with the recruits as I handed them a book. So let me start with a few weeks back, I was on a next gen webinar. It's something the fire chief of Scottsdale started, and it was all about this topic, mental and behavioral health. And so I shared about our Partners Academy, some of the stuff that we do. Tempe Fire shared about some of the things that they do. Mm-hmm. So they asked me for a copy of our curriculum for the Partners Academy, but they had 2 ideas. One is a book. It's called I Love a Firefighter, What the Family Needs to Know. Yeah. And they vetted that book and said, this is fantastic. And so now in every recruit class, if the recruit has a significant other, they're given that book to give to their significant other so that they can read it. Now, we're in the vetting process of the book right now. I think that's important to say. But the feedback just after the first chapter from Patty 2.0, our new HR manager, she messaged me and said, listen, I've read the first chapter. That alone is enough for me to say, please order the books for the current recruits.
Sure.
And then our finance manager came in, who happens to be married to one of our company officers, and saw the book on the desk and said, I'm actually reading that book right now. It's fantastic. So
that's good, yeah.
I ran our idea by her, and she said, absolutely, I think it's a tool we should use. So we handed that book out. We're still vetting it, but we're working with the union at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so the intent is, if this is something that we feel is viable, then the union and CAFMA are going to partner to try to get every significant other that wants a copy of the book. And moving forward, every recruit who has a significant other will receive a copy of the book at no cost. Yeah. The other part of that, though, is something called high-stress incident tracking. And we met on that yesterday.
Yep.
There's a significant technical component to that I don't understand. But I get the general concept. Sure. And basically, in Image Trend, we are able to build a report based on key words, suicide, drowning. And based on those keys, the next morning a report will be spit out that says, here's the high-stress incidents that your crews ran yesterday. Mm-hmm. There's also a button so a company officer can click it to say, hey, I need to draw attention to this one. Yeah. The end of the month, it kicks a report out that says, hey, this crew or these individuals, here's the number of high-stress incidents they went on. And from there, they determine, hey, that number triggers where we're going to go sit down with a cup of coffee with that crew and just check in on them, see how they're doing. So I know we're setting a meeting with that in the next couple of weeks to visit with Tempe and look at it. But I think that's why one of the reasons that we at CAFMA are always asking, is there something more?
Sure.
And I've never seen you take someone telling you there's nothing more and saying, okay, well, I guess we're just done then. I've never seen you do that.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a willingness, and I think that's existed within the organization for as long as I've been here, to take good ideas that other people are using, which I think is fantastic, because there's plenty of people out in the fire service that are smarter, even in the business realm that are smarter, that are doing good things. And it's just a matter of being willing to say, that's a good idea. Can I have that?
Yeah.
And at the same time, we send a lot of things out. We send task books out all the time for people, and it's always when we send that information out, it's like, hey, when you make that better, send it back to us too.
Yeah,
please.
Let us know.
Yeah, use your knowledge and your expertise, and when you refine that and make it look better, send it back. So it's that willingness to, I think, look outside our own agency to say, no, we're not perfect. We want to continue to grow, and that's our goal. One last thing before that you'd mentioned, because there's been a lot of discussion, are we creating more problems in the mental health by talking about mental health and trying to bring it to the forefront? And you said something about daylighting, and it made me think of, if you shine a light in the darkness, you're going to see all those things that you didn't necessarily see before. And I think that's what we're seeing. It existed, and it's existed the whole time. We are just shining a light on some of this, even for our own folks, and giving hopefully them resources. Here's how you can go get help. Here's how you can hopefully have a long, healthy and happy career.
Is it healthy?
Are you sure? One of those.
I'm just checking.
Healthy and happy career, but also maybe, in talking with Debbie, bring that home to your personal life as well. So, again, I think it's existed. We're just shining a light, and we're seeing what maybe we were just blind to before.
Well, and I think shining a light on it is good, right? And getting things in place to mitigate it. But I was on a virtual conversation with some chiefs from a couple of different states Monday night this week. And one of the things we talked about was we're doing a horrible job with recruiting new firefighters, because what we're putting out there is, hey, come be a firefighter and we're going to screw up your brain for life. Or, hey, come be a firefighter, you're going to get cancer. And what we should be talking about is, hey, there are challenges in life in general, whether you're in the fire department or somewhere else. If you walk outside this building, you are exposed to carcinogens because it's just in the environment that we're in. So we need to take a step back from promoting ourselves and talking about woe is me with all of these things, and just talk about, hey, listen, yes, that could be a problem, but here's all of the mitigation efforts that we have. Here's all the tools that we have for you on the mental and behavioral health side. Here are all the tools we have for you to help prevent cancer, right, that we're putting in place. So come work for us, because we have all these things in place to protect you, because what we want you to have is a 25-year or a 30-year career where you walk out healthy and happy. And I think that's the end goal.
I love it. And I think the other part of it is there's a lot of folks that are already doing that.
Right.
Sometimes we focus on the negative, and there are still, even for our organization, there are a lot of folks that are doing great things. Yeah. And they're mentally healthy and happy, and that's awesome. And we can't forget that side of it, because this is a great job. It's a great career, and not everybody's going to struggle with it. And if somebody is struggling with something professionally, we have resources for that. And if you're struggling personally, there's resources for that too. But there's a lot of folks who still doing great work and love the job and come to work happy.
And the culture we want to create here is an environment where, and we've talked about it before, it's okay to say I'm not okay, but it's also okay to say I am okay.
Yes. Yep.
Right?
Correct.
I mean, there's a balance. Every individual is different in how they process things, how they do things. And as I talked to the recruits on Wednesday, what I said was, look, I'm not saying every one of you is going to need to talk to the counselor. We're going to continue to rotate engine companies through so that they see what the environment's like, how to access, what tools are available. But you may have other ways to process things that don't include the need to go to a counselor. And that's perfectly fine, as long as they're healthy ways, right? And that's what we're talking about, is leading a healthy life through your career. And that's balancing all kinds of things. It's balancing your finances. It's balancing your time. It's drinking in moderation. It's having a healthy outlet, whether it's a counselor or a hobby or whatever it is, to help you process things and get through this career, whether those things are work-related or home-related or a combination of both.
Sure. No, and I think one of the slogans for the Mighty Oaks is if what you're doing isn't working, why not try something else?
Yeah.
And I think that goes across the different avenues. If what you're doing isn't working, think about doing something else.
Absolutely. Stop making bad decisions. Mm-hmm. Try something new, go a different direction. And I think that's an important message. And that's what I was trying to share with our new folks who are coming onto the floor. Some of them are starting shift on Sunday, but throughout the next week, our graduates, they're graduated.
Oh, yeah.
They're coming out into the field and into a new environment. So I explained the table of treason to them and how if we could harness that power for good, we could have world peace.
Indeed.
But I also talked to them about choice. Yep. Your attitude is your choice. And sometimes you're going, it's, as much as I hate to say this about our organization, not every crew is happy-go-lucky.
Sure.
And you're going to end up at one of those crews that is not as happy-go-lucky. And you can either fall into that same place, or you can say, no, I'm going to choose to be something different.
Yeah.
Because I want to have fun when I come to work. I want to create a great environment of growth. But I also told them, I said, those crews that aren't happy-go-lucky all the time, they still provide the best service to our community. They're good people.
No, and when I was younger, my dad told me that I had to be a happy, merry worker if I wanted to work with him. And you think like, well, at that point, like he'd just be grumpy and he wouldn't have to work. Well, that didn't work out either. He was a master of psychology, so you wanted to work with him. But ultimately, the mindset was, work's hard enough as it is. Yeah. Don't make your bad attitude worse for me in the job that I'm doing. Try to find enjoyment whenever you're doing, and that's the encouragement. Find enjoyment. Whether it's a tough call or a tough day, or you're working hard, try to find enjoyment, because work sucks and it's hard enough as it is sometimes. Not to have bringing a bad attitude to it doesn't help the perspective.
Well, and I shared with them, I said, there's a lot of gloom and doom out there right now in the fire service with all this stuff. But
in the world.
Yeah, in the world in general. But I told them, I said, this is my 29th year in emergency services, and I still love every morning that I get to get up and put a uniform on. Now, I have an identity outside of that. I understand the whole retirement gig. And by the time I retire, I'll have 37 years in. And I'm still happy to put a uniform on and come in and represent our personnel, represent our communities, and provide for that. And if I had to go back to an engine or an ambulance, I would happily do that once you got me my paramedic cert again. 24 years. I dropped it because it didn't transfer to Arizona. But the fact of the matter is, if you choose to have the right attitude throughout, you choose healthy outlets, you choose to work through the pain that can be marriage sometimes. Sorry, Jen. I'm not saying it's all her. Well, no. I just want to be clear.
Yeah, Jen, I totally believe that.
But if you're going to make the wrong choice sometimes, and that's okay. Yeah. Just pivot and get back on track. Yeah. And you can have a great career. And I hope that the recruits heard that message, and as they go out into the field, they'll carry that with them and maintain that positive attitude that you're going to have a bad day. Fine. Just pick yourself up. And so with that, I want to congratulate all of the recruits going out into the field.
Indeed.
I want to congratulate all of you within CAFMA, because you've made it with the OT and the mandatory overtime, and I'm hoping that these 9 positions will help alleviate some of that, because sleep deprivation is a real thing.
Oh, no, absolutely.
And a significant challenge. So we've talked about our plans before as far as staffing moving forward. In the review this week, I talk about the staffing plans and that we're taking it to the board on February 27th. It's not that they're going to agree to all of it there, but if we can get an agreement to or direction to move forward with seeing where it fits in the budget. Yeah. So there are still a lot of exciting things happening here. So, absolutely. John, I appreciate you coming on today. Jonah, as always, thank you so much. I know you're a short timer with doing the podcast now, because we are going to get you that relief, and we are going to get you those people we promised you.
Awesome.
In July, as long as the board approves it. So I just want to put that caveat in there.
That's good.
All right. Until next time, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and thank you for tuning in.